So let's talk about now acts and rounds. Yes. So I was asked, what are the acts? What are the rounds? Okay. So let's start with basic. Okay. First, let's start with the rounds, which is easier to understand. The rounds are prayers in the divine will. Why they are called rounds? Because we are kind of like going round and round. We are kind of visiting persons, like rounds of a doctor in the church, a doctor in a hospital. He would go from one patient to another, from one bed to another. You could say he's doing his rounds. He's going around, or yeah. So you can relate with that, right? I'm sure there are more examples in life where there are rounds where like you go from one place to another. Yeah. Like you invite many people to your party, or you do your rounds by visiting each table, greeting your guests. Yeah, so we can say they are doing their rounds of greeting their guests. So rounds is like going from one person to another, right? So in the divine will, because God is acting, the Trinity is acting through in the humanity of Jesus Christ. Remember that. It is the act of God, it's the act of the Trinity. The Trinity is acting. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Acting through Jesus. Jesus is the soul. Jesus is the source. So the Trinity is acting through the humanity of Jesus. Okay, that's the way that it's done. You are letting God operate in you, and you are joining in. Now, because it's done through Jesus, it's done through Mary as well, in her season. And then Louisa as the third plane. Then you are in union with everybody. You are obtaining the merits that will benefit everybody. So a good way to say it is, that's just one way to say it. So I would say, I want to pray my rosary, or Most Holy Trinity, I want to fuse myself in your will. And I want to pray my rosary in Jesus, through Jesus, in union with Mary and Louisa, in the name of all, past, present, and future. So that is kind of, you are saying it theologically correct. The Trinity is there, who's doing the act through Jesus' humanity, in union with Mary as the second plane, and Louisa as the third plane, where it passes to us in the name of all, past, present, and to come. So that is theologically covering what is taking place in the name of all, past, present, and future, because you are storing graces for future generation that will come after you, that will receive these graces when they come to birth on earth. So you are doing it, but God can see that, can see the future. So you're doing it in their name as well. So that means that rosary that I'm going to pray, or it's the Trinity involved, Jesus involved, Mary is involved, Louisa is involved, in the name of everyone. So that kind of as if many people, I say many people because if you're not living in the complete state, it's not everybody. If you're living in the complete state, that means every single person would receive the benefit as if that person has prayed that rosary with you. As if every single person. So the saints in heaven, it would divinize their rosaries, which they prayed before the era of the divine will. So they would receive graces for rosaries they prayed in their life on earth that was not prayed in the divine will. So Jesus says double glory. And the theological word for it is accidental glory, because it's added on their glory. It's something added on. So they missed out on praying their rosary in the divine will because the time was not right. But now they are compensated. So it is as if now they said their rosary in the divine will. So they receive a surplus, a double glory, a double joy of their rosaries being divinized by God operating in you. So this is for heaven. Purgatory. If you are living in the complete state, and from the center, which everybody benefits, then every single soul in purgatory now receive the help and the graces as if that soul in purgatory has prayed that rosary in the divine will. In the divine will, divinely. So all souls would benefit. And people on earth, the 7-8 billions, they would all benefit to certain degrees. If they are living in mortal sin and they shut God out of their life, they're not going to benefit. But if there is any opening to grace, they will receive graces like light flooding in. So if we say they are like a room, closed room, and they have the curtains closed, if there is any little opening to God where light could penetrate, you will bring that light in. How many times they have to test this fire alarm? This is the third time they frightened me. Okay, right, okay. So basically, that is the round in the divine will. It's called round because we are going round to every soul in purgatory and saying to the soul, here you go, my brother. Here you go, my sister. Here is a rosary. It is as if you prayed it. Here is the merit, not the merit. Here is the grace, is the relief that it will bring you in purgatory. So we've gone to each one. Now, will each soul in purgatory benefit in the same way? The answer is no, because each soul in purgatory benefit to the measure they showed mercy, to the measure they received. Jesus said that in Luke's gospel. To the measure you give out, the measure you receive. So they would all benefit, but to different measures. But they would all benefit if you are living completely, not imperfectly. If you're living imperfectly, God only knows who will benefit, how many will benefit, how much will benefit. But if you live completely from the center, then you know that everybody will benefit to the max.
Could you explain multiply to the infinite?
Yeah, multiply to the infinite. But is that clear?
Yes.
Yes, I think that was it Debbie who asked the question about what are the rounds. Yeah. So this is basically the rounds. It's rounds. It's like a doctor that goes from you are now going to every single human being from Adam to the last one. The last one, it does not exist yet, but as if that's their chair. You got it stored for them. And this is for them when they come to birth. So it's rounds because you're visiting everybody, you're benefiting everybody. So multiply to the infinite. Okay, so the rounds and the acts. So there are three things I'll show from the dissertation. Okay, it is section, let me get it. So three properties. Okay, so it's the universal. Okay, I cannot find it. But anyway, I'll say it from memory. Oh, I found it. Okay, it's page 108 in the dissertation, section 4.1.14. So it's trans-temporal, means you trans-time. Time is not an issue for the soul that lives in the divine world. Trans-time, trans-temporal, that's the first thing. So you're affecting everyone, throughout time. Trans-temporal, universal, every single person, and you're affecting the angels, you're affecting the irrational being out there, and you're affecting everything God created. So transtemporal, universal, and the multiplication. Multiplication. Now, multiplication is because first thing is you kind of multiplied. Your soul is multiplied, it's bilocated many, many times. Do you remember that visual that I made with the Easter eggs? And it showed many. Yeah, so imagine, Easter egg for every single person, it's your soul is multiplied for each one. But that's not only it. Multiplication, it goes beyond that, because God is infinite and he wants to give infinitely. So for somebody like our Blessed Mother Mary praying something, she's living in the complete state and really advanced deep in the complete state. Her rosary, her prayers would not only impact each person once, it would impact that person several times. So her one rosary would not just benefit, that's our Blessed Mother Mary, would not just benefit every single one in heaven, like that's when she was living on earth. I'm talking about when she was living in the divine will on earth, would not just impact the people in heaven, purgatory, and the future generations and the angels and everything, but would impact them multiple times as well. So her one Hail Mary or her one Our Father would give the benefit as if it's been said multiple times as well. Okay, that's very advanced, but just leave it to God to do. All what you have to do is just thrive to advance, to thrive to go deeper, because the deeper you go, the more is the impact.
But I don't know how to say, but if I say something, and if I say like my prayers, if I say rosary and I say multiply to the infinite, I don't grasp what it actually means. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it means it's multiplied in different ways. In one way, you are multiplied in each person. Your soul is multiplied, and in another way, you're asking God, I want to give souls not the benefit of one rosary, but multiple rosaries. Yeah, multiple. So you are doing one rosary, but you're saying to God, but I wish that they would receive multiple rosaries. So I would go to each soul in purgatory, not offer them one rosary, but multiple rosaries prayed in the divine one. That is really what you're saying. So that's why you could say multiply to the infinite. You don't have to say multiply to the infinite. God is already taking care of it. It's all automatically happening. But you could, to remind yourself that, wow, what is happening here is so great. So this is how I change. I according to my mood, I say the fusing and the rounds in different ways. When I'm feeling talkative and I've got full of energy, I would do my rounds in a long way, praying it. When I'm really tired, I would just say Jesus or Mary. That's it, just one word. But with my mind and heart, I know what is taking place. Yeah, I would just say Jesus, and that's it. I get on with what I'm doing. If I'm really really tired, that's all. That's all what you need to do. So you can adjust your way of prayer to yourself and to your uniqueness. God is not going to say, "Oh, you didn't say multiply to the infinite, so I'm just going to give one rosary to or God would not say, you didn't say, I fuse myself in your will and your, that's it, it's gone. It's in the intentions, it's in the heart, it's in the intention. As long as you intend it, the words is just expression of what's in the heart. Hope that helps. Yeah. Okay,
Sam?
Margaret has
Yeah.
got a question. Yes, Margaret.
Hi. Good
Hi.
morning. I just wondered, uh, I'm asking Jesus to think in my mind here to express this, but
Yes,
is Jesus, my understanding is that rather than my soul being multiplied, that it's Jesus that's being multiplied because he's performing the act to make it a divine act, and therefore his soul is multiplied. And I had the dissertation. I was just going to look up multiplication. Jesus's multiplication. Divine lives, like you were talking about with Father the other day.
yes,
How that
yes,
works. It just when I heard the words, my soul is multiplied
yes,
across time and
yes.
everything. It just confused me because I thought it was Jesus that was multiplied. That's all.
Margaret, it's both. It's both. It's Jesus and your soul. It's both. Because Jesus is a lover and he wants his spouse to share with him everything he does. So it's about love, and he takes the soul with him to do the rounds. So it is Jesus doing it and Mary doing it with the soul, with the soul. So your soul is there wherever Jesus is. We're talking about a level of intimacy, the highest level of intimacy and love. And if the two are united, your soul with Jesus' soul, in this act of the divine will, then wherever Jesus goes, you would go with him. You would not leave him alone.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So it is
Yeah.
both. It's both. And therefore, what he does, the merit that Jesus earns to each one, and the glory he earns for each one, he gives it to your soul because you've let him do it in you, with you. So he gives you the merit as if you've done it, even though he did it, just because you let him. And it goes beyond that, Margaret. It goes beyond that. But I'm not going to go, otherwise, I confuse. It goes beyond that. But let's leave it at that. Teresita.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to ask when we fuse ourselves in the divine will, can we also immerse the whole world, everyone in the divine will, or is just ourselves and everybody is included immediately? How does that work?
Okay, Teresita. So we cannot fuse others. I cannot come to someone who does not accept divine will and say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fuse you. I'm going to make you live in the divine will. We cannot do that. But what we are doing is we are substituting for them. We are doing it for them. We are giving them the fruit as if they did it. Does that make
Yes,
sense? We
perfect.
cannot we cannot make them do it. We cannot make them do their acts and rounds. This we cannot do. We cannot fuse them. We cannot. I cannot pick them up and put them in that sea of light. I cannot do that. But what
But
I
can
but
we
what I
immerse
can
them?
do, yeah. But
Can we
what
immerse them in the divine will, like in the ocean of the divine will, so they receive the graces, or like
we
the
can,
sun shining
yes,
on
there's,
them?
yes, correct, yes, yes.
Okay.
We can, yes. That's the whole point of it. Is to give graces to everybody, to substitute for those who don't do it. Yes, correct. That's the whole point. Yeah, is that clear, Teresa? Yeah.
Very, very much. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Margaret.
Just that I had in my mind from wherever the dissertation that the act that I invite Jesus to perform is creating a spiritual sun which sends light and heat
Yes.
to
Yes.
dispose all those who are disposed to receive the gift of the living and
Correct.
divine will. Yeah.
Correct. Correct, Margaret. Correct. Yes. Yes. Correct. That's right. Yeah, I was gonna do some visual to illustrate the signs. I can do it now if you like to, but let's deal with the basic question first, and then we go into that sense. If you bear with us, Margaret. Okay. Any more question about rounds? Yeah, you understand. So, okay, we'll speak only about round. Let's look at this diary entry, volume 8, February 9th, 1908. This one, if you remember anything in the volumes, this one committed to memory. This is one of the most famous entries in the volumes. Really classic. Okay, really classic. And every divine will study there. I try to pick up the famous passages for you so that you would be familiar with the main ones, just like in the Bible. The Bible has got so many passages, but there are more famous passages that are used by the church, read in the churches, than other passages. So in the Divine Will volumes as well, there are passages which are classic, which are repeated over and over again, like key ones. So this is one of them. February 9th, 1908, volume 8. So from that, we can develop that prayer of the rounds. So we can say, Most Holy Trinity, I fuse into your will and love. Jesus, I fuse myself in your divine humanity. Okay? Transform myself into you. Now, I'll stop here. Why? Because Jesus said, every time we fuse, there is a transformation that takes place. You become a better person every time you fuse. Now, fusing so if you say a prayer is fine. I mean, definitely God wants you to do it, but it gets tricky when you want to do something that may not be God's will. For example, you may want to do, that something that is not very charitable, let's say, or pick the phone and speak gossip, for example. Or you cannot, if you say, Jesus, I fuse myself in you and I'm going to pick the phone and speak gossip, he's not going to be with you. It's not going to be in the divine will because it's a sin, you see. So first thing, there is an element of discernment. You can say, I fuse myself in your will to do this act, but then you need to have a listening ear to the Lord, because the Lord may come and say to you, my child, let me divinize the acts, let me correct it, let me say it in the right way. So when you pick the phone and speak with your friend, suddenly you don't gossip anymore. Your words are changed. You intended to gossip at the start, but it didn't come out. It didn't happen. Yeah. So when you fuse, have a listening ear to the Lord. Have a listening ear to him. Because there is an element of transformation, a change in you. And there is an element of martyrdom of your human will. Yeah. So I give you an example. This lady who is journeying in the divine will. So she went to the store and she normally asks, Jesus, let's shop together. This is acts in the divine will, not the rounds. The acts is the actual acts, which are good acts. So everybody needs to go shopping. You need food. This is a good act. So definitely God wants it done. So it's an act that can be divinized, that can be taken into God and made holy and divinized act, right? Who doesn't do shopping? Everybody needs to shop for food, right? Okay, so she went into a pack of a crisp, yeah? And then she said, Jesus, we want to buy this crisp, and she picked up the crisp and she heard his voice interiorly. No, I don't want you to have that crisp, right? And this lady is a spiritual person. She's, familiar with the Lord's voice, in her discernment. So she just left it. She left the pack of crisps. She did not buy it. So do you see what took place? So when she fused, when she fused and in the divine world, she was open to the Lord's teaching and saying, no, no, this is not for you. I don't want you to do this. You know, if she carried on, the Lord wouldn't have made that part of the divine will. Yeah, but this, if she heard his voice and she still carried on, that is a deliberate sin. So she would have been out of the divine will. She would have had to repent to come back into that imperfect state of living in the divine will. So fusing is not a magic word. You know, I fuse myself now, God is acting in me. If the act is a good act and God wills it, yes. If God does not will it, it's not going to happen, you know? It's not going to happen. So, yeah. So when you fuse yourself and you intend to do something, you know, it's easy. Like you pray your rosary, of course God wants to do it, you know. But when it comes to buying chocolate or a crisp or something unhealthy or a processed food or, you know, something, you need to ask the Lord, you know, because the Lord may say no. In which case, you need to obey his voice, because then it will be a deliberate sin, and any small deliberate sin will get us out of the divine will. Not sense of weakness or omission. These are not, we will not lose the imperfect state of living in the divine will with these kind of sins, but deliberate sin, yes. I tell you, one of the hardest ones for me is when it's the limit. The limit on the road is so low, unreasonably low. I don't know who set these limits, like 20 miles per hour limits on and that is like, oh my Jesus, give me patience. It takes ages to get through the road. Okay, that is my struggle when driving on a 20 miles per hour. Yeah, Lord. And there the road is empty. There is no traffic or no one on the road. Yeah. Okay. But I don't want to do a deliberate sin. So I don't want to get out of the divine will. So I offer up. Okay, that's my part. Okay, is that clear? Is that clear? So this is the first thing. Margaret, yes.
I'll just share something quickly
Yes, sure.
about driving the speed limit.
Yes.
I went at one point about a year and a half ago.
Yes.
I decided I'm going to drive the speed limit and not 1 mile over, because I can't pray my rosary and drive and have those prayers be efficacious if I'm going over the limit. So
Yes.
I confessed it, and I went to confession and confessed it.
Yes.
And more than one priest said to me,
Yeah.
These are man-made laws. These are not God's laws necessarily. And if you are driving safely and there's no one around you, and you are, you know, it's okay to go a little above the limit. He even said, a Latin mass priest, who's my absolute confessor, he said, I said, what about if you're in the middle of the night at a red light and there's no one around? He said, if it's not going to endanger anyone, these are man-made laws. These are not God's laws. So I don't know. I'll just share that.
Oh dear. I would prefer to stick to them, Margaret, and not get out of the divine will.
I think you're right.
Okay. Right. Okay. So that's the first step. Fuse yourself and listen and have this, you know, if he says no, then martyr, sacrifice your human will. Yeah. Sacrifice as hard as the 20 miles per limit and Margaret's limit. Yeah. Which seems like many struggle with it. But martyr, sacrifice your human will. Okay. And yes, so that's the first step. Then so that will bring a transformation. So every time you do that, you become a better person. The Lord takes you deeper. The Lord makes you more lovable. the Lord makes you more transformed into him. You become more like Jesus and more like Mary. And then he says, take what you find in me. Why does he say that? Because you going now to go rounds, and you're going to go rounds with Jesus and Mary, with that rosary you're praying or driving your car. That acts is transformed to an act of love or a prayer of love. Yeah, a prayer that would benefit everyone. So you and Jesus would go around to every soul and give them the benefit, the graces of your obedience, driving to the correct speed limit, driving safely, even that becomes a prayer, becomes an act of love that can have a benefit to everybody. So you're going to go around the universe throughout time and distribute to everyone these graces. Okay, you're going to do that. So, and while you're doing this, what is taking place? Let's read the second one. I go around through all human acts of creatures to redo. So anyone who is in purgatory, who drove unsafely and is suffering in purgatory because they drove the car or they traveled unsafely, causing accidents, causing havoc, causing, stress, beeping to other drivers, road rage, all sort of thing. You are now redoing, not you. Whenever I say you, it's a partnership. It's Jesus and you, Jesus and Mary and you. Okay? You are redoing, you are preparing for the act of driving or act of traveling that was done unkindly, that was done without love, that was done in a way that was uncharitable to their brothers and sisters, other road users, etc. Okay, so you do it. So this is the redoing part. Okay, sealing and glazing. Sealing and glazing is for the first glaze. Sealing and glazing means you are taking Jesus' divine act and you are clothing their act, which could be good. For example, a saint. A saint traveled very good way, very charitable, did not lose patience, but their acts of driving or traveling was not done in the divine world, was not divinely done, was humanly done by them. What you're doing is you are now divinizing it. You are divinizing it. So that saint in heaven who has traveled, like for example, Saint Christopher, the patron saint of travel, yeah, his acts becomes divine acts, and other saints. They become divine acts. So in heaven, they would receive now the double glory as if they were living on earth in the divine world. They've missed the chance to live in the divine world on earth, but their sister or brother on earth are substituting for them. They're not missing out the fruits. They're not missing out the fruits because their brothers, sisters on earth are doing it for them. Or rather, Jesus with that soul doing them for them. So that's why he says, glaze each human thought, word, gaze, desire, work, step, and act with your divine one. That's what we say to Jesus, gaze them. Okay? Now, so you've done your rounds. So your soul went into everyone, taking the merit, taking the graces to each, not the merit. I keep saying merit. I don't mean merit like in merit. I mean graces, benefits to every single soul. Okay? And if you're living in complete state, it would be every single soul. It would be all angels. It would be you benefiting also the irrational being as well. Okay. Now, this is what Jesus said. The cycle of love has to be completed. You went to Jesus. You've taken the fruits for everybody. But that cycle is not complete. You need to head back to God to return their thank you, their I love you too. Because love is not complete. I say I love you. It's not complete unless the person says I love you too, right? It's only complete like this. So if I just went around and giving them everything, that's not a complete act. You need to go back to the Lord with their thank you, substituting for those who are ungrateful, substituting for those who wouldn't say, I love you too. And those who said, I love you, Lord, but they said it in a human way, you substituting them so that their act becomes divine act in heaven. Okay, so the cycle is completed when you go back to the Lord with I love you, the requital of love. Requite the love of God on behalf of everyone. So that's why I made it step 1, 2, 3, and it's all in that diary entry. So bring back to the Lord all the love, adoration, blessing, thanksgiving, and glory in the name of all. Then the cycle of love is completed for that acts or rounds that you're doing. You understand it? Yeah, it's all about love. It's all about love. That is what it's all about.